Okay, ready? Redwall. We are in part 3, chapter 1. So, Redwall, the Abbey is under attack. Okay, chapter 1. The invasion at Redwall continued through the night, the whole scene illuminated by a bright summer moon. Neither side gave the other any quarter, sorry. When the main action went into a lull, sporadic sniping would break out. Bow, lance, sling, and spear, all coming into play with deadly effect. One thing that remained constant throughout the battle was the sound of the battering ram pounding away remorselessly at the Abbey gatehouse. Clooney made it his duty to assess personally the progress at the tunnel workings. He was scathingly critical of the small hole that had been gouged into the side of the ditch, roundly cursing any creature who dared to complain of difficult obstacles. Can't get past the rocks and tree roots? My eye, he snarled. Idle, stupid laziness. That's what's holding up the progress of this tunnel. I'll be around first thing tomorrow to see how much further you lot have dug, and if it's not to my liking, I'll cave it in and bury the whole shirking lot of you. However, the battering ram pleased Clooney much more. He knew it was worrying the Abbey defenders. The rat crews that manned the heavy object were changed every hour by Cheese Thief, who stayed with the ram the whole time, encouraging the carriers on to greater efforts. Clooney had gained a new respect for Cheese Thief. Mentally, he had already promoted him to second in command. Sensing this had made Cheese Thief redouble his efforts. He worked the rat crews like a slave driver. No rodent dared to complain about one whom the chief held in such high regard. Constance stood on the wall with her captains. The badger's brow was furrowed with anxiety. Basil Staghair, the most seasoned campaigner, was among them, was the only one who apparently took it all quite lightly. "'Pon my word," he chuckled, "the way those blighters down there are carrying on with the jolly old ram, they won't need to tunnel in soon. I'll give it a half a day at most, and then we'll have rats piling in over the shoring. What?" Ambrose's spike positively bristled at the nonchalant Hare. "Well, I must say that is a comforting thing to know. Any more little gems of information to cheer us up, eh?" Basil strode off in a high dudgeon, re-emphasizing his previously forgotten limp. "Dearie me, old lad, no need to be so touchy. Merely making a military observation, you know." Constance called the two old friends together. "Look, it's no use quarreling among ourselves. We should be thinking of a solution. Come on, you two, stop sulking and be pals again." Smiling sheepishly, Basil and Ambrose shook paws. Winifred the otter pounded the stones of the parapet in frustration. "I say, there's got to be a way to stop that confounded ram. We've lost far too many defenders. They get picked off every time they stand up to retaliate. It's got to be a very simple solution. A small, obvious thing that we've all missed." Jess Squirrel, aided by Silent Sam, maneuvered the barrel on to the ramparts. She patted it. "Something simple, like this." The captains gathered round the barrel, examining it. The top had been covered with gauze. A strange noise issued from deep within. "Well, Jess, don't keep us in suspense. What's in the barrel?" the badger growled. "Shall we tell them, Sam?" grinned Jess. Silent Sam gave a broad wink and tapped a well-sucked paw against his nose. He and his mom were enjoying this. "What we have here, my good comrades in arms," said Jess grandly, "is stage 1 of our anti-battering ram scheme, thanks to my small offspring here who found the hornet's nest." Basil clapped the two squirrels soundly upon their backs. "Of course, that's the ticket. A hornet's nest in a barrel. Just chuck it down on the beastly old enemy. What?" Jess and Sam smiled with wicked delight. "Ha! that's only the first stage, said Jess. Here's the second. She and Sam ducked out of sight. A moment later, they were back with 2 buckets, 2 pails of good, fine, slick vegetable oil, Jess announced. The minute they drop the battering ram, we'll tip this down all over it. Let's see them try to break a door with that, then. Jess and Sam were congratulated heartily by all. Smiles appeared on faces that had been gloomy shortly before. Sam bowed graciously each time he was thanked. Nobody was refusing him permission to be on the wall now. Down below, the scrabbling of rats' feet and the monotonous thud of the ram continued. Winifred and Constance lifted the barrel on to the parapet edge. They angled and tipped it until a fine, delicate balance had been achieved. The badger peeped over at the activity below, waiting for the best moment. She beckoned Silent Sam to her. The time was exactly right. Pray, would you do us the honor, Master Samuel, said Constance with mock courtliness. Feigning an equal gravity, Sam made an elegant leg and delivered a short, sharp kick to the barrel. Buzzing angrily, it dropped out of sight over the edge of the abbey wall. There was a crash and a yell, followed by the shocked screams of agonized rats. They milled about in the roadway, dancing in pain as myriads of maddened hornets attacked furiously. Some rats ran off down the road. Others hurled themselves into the ditch, pursued by the relentless, stinging insects. The long battering ram lay unguarded, conveniently spotlighted by the rats' abandoned torches. 2 well-aimed buckets full of vegetable oil were hurled down. They smashed directly on target, saturating the entire length of the ram. Before the hornets could seek out new victims, Basil ordered the defenders down to the gatehouse study, where they had a celebration snack. Clooney stopped inside the tunnel working, surrounded by as many of the followers as he could pack in without causing mass suffocation. Kilconey held Clooney's coat over the entrance hole. Outside, the air resounded with buzzing and pitiful screams. The ferret gingerly touched the tip of his swollen nose. Clooney stooped in stony silence. He did not sit or attempt to touch his own injuries. The others might laugh. Dumbly he endured the pain of the fiery stings. Further across the meadow there was a mass scramble of bodies into a small mirror. The hornets zinged about, waiting for snouts to break the surface. Dawn revealed the sadly disorganized horde. Clooney wisely held back his temper. Many of his soldiers looked so demoralized that they were liable to make a run for it and desert. He reasoned that there was little to be gained by adding insult to injury. 7 rats, 2 ferrets, and a stoat lay dead in the ditch. Unable to escape the main body of hornets, they had been stung so many times it had proved fatal. Cheese Thief limped slowly up, covered in ugly lumps. Chief, they've poured some stuff over the battering ram. We can't hold on to it. We've tried, but it's like trying to pick up a wet eel. The blasted thing slid right out of our claws. One of the bearers had both legs broken when it slipped and fell. Sorry, Chief, but we didn't expect them to think anything up like that. Hornets and slippery stuff. It's not fair. Clooney pointed across the meadow. Regroup the army over there. Let them feed and rest. Send someone scouting for dock leaves to rub on those stings. I'm going into my tent to do some serious planning. We're not beaten yet, not by a long chalk. They can't produce a hornet's nest every day. Clooney stumped off dejectedly, rubbing his backside with one claw. They stung him on his bottom. There were 1 or 2 insect sting casualties to be treated at the Abbey Infirmary. Fortunately, Brother Rufus had a specific compound that he had invented some years ago to deal with such emergencies as summer stings. Silent Sam was reenacting the entire episode in pantomime for the benefit of Tim and Tess and some other infant creatures. They were in tucks of laughter at his antics as Sam slapped at his fur and performed somersaults with a comical expression on his face. Constance and the captains assembled back on the walls after a few hours' rest. They could see no immediate threat from the hordes licking their wounds across the meadow. This gave ample opportunity to assess the damage caused to the gatehouse door. Jess Squirrel was lowered over the ramparts on a rope. She went swiftly down and inspected the door. In a short while, she was back up again to report that although there were many deep dents and at least 2 long cracks, the old gatehouse door was still standing well. Constance decided that later on they could lower some carpenters and smiths to deal with the repairs. Of late, the badger had become preoccupied with an idea that was rapidly turning into an obsession. Cut off the head and the body would die. By some means, she must kill Clooney the Scourge. Out across the meadows, she could plainly see the warlord's tent. In the strong sunlight, the badger watched the silhouette of the big rat moving about and behind the canvas. The main problem was that the tent had been pitched too far out of range for sling or bow, unless the weapon was big and powerful enough to reach that far. That was it. A large, powerful bow, something along the lines of a crossbow. What if it could be mounted upon the ramparts, unknown to Clooney and his horde? At a given time, say mid-afternoon, Clooney's shadow would be clearly visible through the tent fabric in the bright June sunlight. A big arrow or bolt properly aimed from the bow and twang! Exit Clooney. Delighted with the plan, Constance shared her knowledge with only one other creature, the solitary beaver. Enlisting the aid of the beaver's highly capable molars, the badger left him gnawing away at a yew sapling in the orchard while she went off to find an arrow that could fit her brainchild. An ash staff that had been serviced as a candle snuffer proved to be ideal. With a heavy stone, Constance flattened the conical brass extinguisher fitted to the top of the staff until it resembled a spear. Flighted it with feathers. A thin rubbed with beeswax made an. With the help of the beaver, Constance bent the yew sapling against the abbey wall and strung it to the right tension. Together they mounted it upon a dining table with nails and strapping and bore it up to the ramparts. Constance would only grunt brusquely at anyone inquiring what the strange contraption was for. Only she and the beaver needed to know that. The 2 creatures sat out upon the ramparts, sharing lunch and conversing in low, secretive tones. That should do the trick. Aye, let's keep our paws crossed that it does. We'll only get 1 shot. Ha! 1 shot is all we'll need. Shall we wait until the sun has passed its zenith? That way we can see him clearer. Good idea. When the Joseph bell tolls mid-afternoon should be best. Having finished lunch, the pair lay out like old watchdogs. Half an hour later, they were Clooney, resourceful rat. He often wished that his thought as he did instead of just being a mob of incompetents. But then, if the horde were as clever as he was, there would be no need of a leader. Such was life, he reflected. Nobody could think up a new strategy as he could. At this time, Clooney reckoned that he had hit upon a foolproof plan. He strode across the meadow and handpicked 30-odd rats. Follow me, Clooney rapped. Cheese thief, I'm leaving you in charge till I get back. Without another word, Clooney marched off with his selected rodents, first to the upturned hay cart in the ditch down the road, then a quick circle around into Mossflower Wood. Like his predecessor, Redtooth, Cheese Thief was ambitious. He interpreted Clooney's order as the much coveted promotion to second in command. The chief had not even acknowledged Darkclaw. In his elation, Cheese Thief often forgot the painful hornet stings. He strutted about, asserting his new-found authority. Darkclaw, send those ferrets out for more dock leaves, will you? He ordered. Oh, and see that no one strays too far. I'll be in the tent if you need me for anything, but try not to disturb me. Darkclaw scowled resentfully. Nevertheless, he carried out the orders. If he didn't, he was certain the Cheese Thief would report him to Clooney for insubordination. Cheese Thief swaggered into the tent and glanced around. Clooney had left the better part of a wood pigeon, some cheese, and there was still a handsome measure of the best St. Ninian barley wine in the chief's canteen. Cheese Thief tucked in with satisfaction. Redtooth used to, so why not he? It was his entitlement as Clooney's second in command. He sprawled languidly in the warlord's chair, tilting it and resting his feet on the map-strewn camp table, happy in the knowledge that his destiny was being fulfilled. He secretly hoped that it would start raining heavily. Then the rest of the army would recognize his exalted position when they were outside getting soaked, while he was snug and dry inside the tent. Cheese Thief tried studying the maps. He could not make head or tail of them and soon grew restless. There was Clooney's poisoned tail bar, which he wore in battle. Careful not to pierce his claws by accident, he fitted it onto his own tail. Next, he draped the warlord's cloak about him. It was a bit long, but what a dashing figure he must cut. For a while he contemplated the massive war helmet. Peeping around the tent flap, he checked that there was no sign of the chief returning. Good. Clooney would probably be gone for another hour or two yet. The Joseph bell tolled for mid-afternoon. Constance shook the beaver into wakefulness. Look, what a golden opportunity. There's the scourge himself all dressed up to kill. We'll never get another chance like this. The giant bow worked perfectly. Cheese Thief's latest promotion was swift but brief. He never knew what it was that snuffed his life out. Wow. Pretending to be Clooney. Now this next one's long. I think we'll wait. But here he is pretending to be Clooney. They didn't know. They just saw his shadow in the tent. So, anyway, next time, chapter 2. Until then.